you all to be extra carefully quiet and everybody facing forward, just because my voice hurts. Okay, so last class, I asked you guys to wrap up your pieces. I haven't been here. When was that? The last class? Was this like last Friday we made these? So I have not sprayed mine at all, and I'm a little bit concerned. Now everybody watch me over here. I'm going to grab a paddle. I'm going to show you how to use a paddle if you need it. And I mean, here's something too. Both of these tools are right in the back over there. So the first thing that you want to do is you really want to make sure that all of your pinch pots are the right shape and form. Mine are a little bit on the hard sides. I'm going to make it work. Do you hear that? Like, that's like cast leather hard. So, if yours, hopefully, did you guys spray yours real good last time?
Yep.
Hopefully yours isn't as dry as mine, but just for this moment, I'm literally going to spray these down so that they're dripping wet. And I'm going to put them in a really wet bag just for a moment. Now there's a few other tools for today's lesson that you might want and need. One of those is an X-Acto blade, especially if your piece is as hard as mine. You're going to need some fresh wet clay. So I'm just going to grab this bag. Someone left out some clay last period. You guys should have your Ziploc baggies of fresh wet clay. And today I'm going to teach you guys how to combine several pieces. So while those are wetting up a little bit, I just want to talk about the logistics with you. So I'm going to start with the torso first. My torso is a part of my skull, part of my head. So 1 and 2 are my first two that I'm going to attach together. Now when I attach those together, there's going to be trapped air on the inside. Does that make sense? We want that trapped air. If your piece is on the wet side, it's going to want to collapse. Does that make sense? Mine is like a freaking solid. It's not going anywhere. So I'm not worried about it collapsing. But when I attach this fourth one, I need the air to move from here to here. So I need to make a vent inside of there. Same thing with the third one. I need to make a vent or a hole that will make one big open area. Does that make sense? I want all of the pinch pots to be sharing water, or air, sorry. So let's go ahead and get these guys out. Yeah, I don't know which one was supposed to be which, but I'm definitely going to put the heavier one on the bottom, okay? Why do you think I should put the heavier one on the bottom here?
Balance.
Yeah, what's it balancing though?
So we can tip over the top and it's balancing. Here it's
Yeah, so we don't want it to tip over on the top, but we already know from my design that the top is going to be top heavy, right? So I'm just going to help myself out by making these a little less crazy, putting the heavy side near the back. When you guys are doing this, I'm going to take a scoring tool. What? This is a bit needle tool. Okay. So I'm going to slip score these together. Mine is keeping its shape really good. Mine is really too hard. If your piece is as hard as mine, I would make fresh and brand new ones. Okay? If your piece is super, super fresh and brand new, you might have to let it set up a night before you can put them together, because it takes a fair amount of pressure to squish them together. Does that make sense? You don't want to warp them. So this one's a little bit drier because I don't know why. I think it just absorbed the water a little bit better because it's skinnier. A little bit wetter. That's good. So once I do this, I'm going to put a bunch of slip on there. Now I'm making new slip today. So before I use the slip, I just put my finger on it, shake it all about. I'm going to stick this in there and open it up. But usually, honestly, these things don't really work. They always end up clogging. Now I'm going to be okay with a little bit too much. I'm going to use a paintbrush and just move this around a little bit. I'm going to score it again. And I only have to slip score one side. The other side, I can just rely on scoring. But mine is so dry, I'm just gonna wet this so that it's nice and wet. Sorry about my voice.
That's fine.
Thank you, you're sweet. Okay. Now, when I put these together, I need to have something prepared. And I call this a Band-Aid. Okay? Really, you want to think of it like a neck brace. You know the concept of a neck brace? Is that while your neck is fragile and weak, you put a brace around it. It's ugly, it's unsightly, but eventually it comes off. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll out some clay. I'm going to make mine, because mine is such on the dry side, I'm going to make mine a little bit thicker than you probably will need to make yours. But I want this Band-Aid to go all the way around the circumference. And whether or not yours is dry or not, you're going to do this. Every one of us are going to do this. This isn't just because my piece is dry. Okay? Everybody's going to make a Band-Aid. We should not be able to tell that there is a seam or a crease. We should not ever be able to tell how we made these. Does that make sense? When you look at my hamper wolf, you can't see where all the pinch spots were. It just looks like a hamper wolf. Okay? So now that I've got this ready to go, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of flatten it. And I'm going to go ahead and score this. Now this is way too much clay, but ow!
You okay?
I just stabbed myself. We're good. Just a little morning stabbing, you know.
Makes sense.
Alright. Alright, so now I've got this ready to go. And I'm going to push these in on each other. And I'm kind of like almost twisting them until they take. And I'm pushing extra hard because mine is so dry, but you should push pretty hard. Now, if you get rid of all this slip on there, notice how you can still tell where the seam is. Notice how it wants to go down like a valley right here. Does everybody see that valley there? This Band-Aid is going to eliminate that valley, okay? So these two pieces are stuck together right now pretty good. They're holding their shape. The slipping and scoring is doing good. But, especially because mine is dry especially, they're going to crack apart, okay? So this Band-Aid is essential. And this Band-Aid, this is like marriage, okay? If you get married and you still remember the single life, you're probably not going to be married very long. You know what I'm saying? You have to force yourself. You have to brainwash yourself. You have to tell yourself, we're one forever. This has got to last. You know what I'm saying? It's a weird place for us to be going here today. But it's true. We have to trick these two pieces into believing that they are one. They will never come apart. Okay? So, we're going to do that with a Band-Aid. I'm going to put a little bit more slip on there because mine is so dry. Honestly, I probably could have used the slip that was on there, but I wiped it away so you could see how bad my form was. I'm just going to wiggle this around.
I don't think it was that bad.
Oh, thank you. Alright. So, whatever I don't need, whatever I put on that's too much, I'm telling you right now, slip is the savior of everything. The people who don't score and slip really, really well or really, really deep and really, really wet are the ones where body parts fall off. Okay? So don't be afraid to really mark that up. Everybody seeing that? That is super marked up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to squish this. Now notice when I squish it, some of that clay comes out of there. I'm going to squish it all the way around, making sure that I'm staying with the seam. And as we go around, my Band-Aid is flattening even more because I'm putting pressure on it. And if you guys can see me, like actually look at me physically, I'm lifting it up so that my head can see underneath there. And because sometimes I'll accidentally go off the seam. So you want to make sure that you're on the seam and your Band-Aid is actually doing the job you want it to do. Now, right now, what are you guys noticing? What's bothering you about what I'm doing? Just be honest. Yeah, go ahead, Ashlyn.
There's a piece where like we obviously haven't like sprinted it down yet, but it's just like a lump in the middle. It's not like I don't know. There's like fluids that are still going down
it's the opposite problem.
Yeah.
Instead of having a valley in the middle, now I have a hill in the middle. Okay? What else? How many of you thought, whoa, she's scoring way too much? Be honest, you little rats. You did. I know you thought it, because I would have thought it, okay? But the thing is that I want this hill in the middle, and I need the extra scoring because you have to score everywhere you're going to squish. Okay? In order to get rid of that hill, you have to squish it out. Now, my pot is really dry because I have not watered it in almost a week now. Okay? I got
It's like
sick.
an Easter egg.
It does kind of look like an Easter egg. Now, as I'm doing this, it's going to get a little bit messy. That's okay. I usually just use my wrist to dry things off because you kind of want a dry, clean thumb. And I'm just going to go around, and everywhere I squish this clay, I'm smoothing it at the same time. Again, I cannot use this. Mine is too hard. I'm not going to be, all this lumpiness that's going on, this is going to be a horrible sculpture because it's too wet. I left it. So if your piece is as hard as mine, you need to restart. Okay? But for the sake of our demo, to have something to show you today, I'm going to use it. I'm going to go to the other side, do the exact same thing. And I can actually hear the air bubbles popping as I do that. That is a good sign. That's telling me that you're really pressing out any air bubble that's in there. Okay, now I've gone all the way around.
You made an egg.
And I've made myself a nice little egg. I still have a raised lump in the middle, so I'm going to use a rubber rib. And that soft clay can easily be packed down, smoothed out. That's why we really, when the optimal time to do this, and this is the worst, so I'm going to use a softer one. The optimal time to joint is before it's leather hard. It's like dry wet. Not wet, but dry wet. If it gets in the leather hard zone, like this one, it doesn't, you can't fix things very easily. Okay? Look at how easy it is to smooth out this wet clay. That's when it's optimal. If I go over here, look at how junky and lumpy this looks. Can you guys see that? Just smoothing it away, it's not going to do anything. I'm literally going to have to score, slip, score fresh wet clay on there to make it smooth, which is a nightmare. Why would I want to do that? So make sure that you guys are doing this just after it sets up. Just a wee little bit, okay? So can we all pretend that I've made this really super smooth and wonderful and lovely? Everybody following me?
Yes.
At this point, what I would do if I were you is I would use your alligator tool to if I use my alligator tool right now, I'm never going to get those marks out of here because mine is so dry. Does that make sense? In order for the alligator really to work, it has to be wet enough that you can squish it away really easy. I would just ruin my piece. But yours should be wetter. I would make each egg shape perfectly smooth. Okay? Now it's time to move on to the next one. Alright? So now I've got this guy here, also too hard. And if I put it right here, see how it looks a little bit too perky?
Yeah.
How come it's not focusing? Oh, because I don't have autofocus. How about that? Okay, so really what I want to do is I want to cut this at an angle where I can get the right angle. So if I look at this, if I take here and I make it here, that's what I want. I want this to fit, yeah.
There's a really bad glare on the screen. The lights off.
Yeah,
On it.
thank you. So what I'm going to do
Still.
is I'm going to cut this at an angle.
Is that better?
And again, my pot is too hard to really be doing this. You run the risk of cutting your hands. Also, my thing isn't secure in there. Jeez. Never carve toward yourself. You should not be cutting like this. I'm a horrible example. Don't do this. Nobody do this.
We'll do it.
Don't do it.
Why?
Because I said so. It's
Why?
dangerous. Always cut away from yourself if you're gonna cut. Cut down toward the table, whatever. Okay, so that's a little bit lumpy right there. I'm gonna get rid of that lump. Okay, so now that I've got the correct angle there, Now look, you guys, this would be so much nicer if this was wetter, so I could just squish it on. I probably don't even need a Band-Aid. Does that make sense? So what I'm gonna do here is, this isn't the best situation, whatever, but I'm gonna keep going. I'm a professional here. I'm going to mark off where it's gonna go, which is like right here. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to get a needle tool. I'm gonna use my bent needle tool. I need there to be a thickness here to slip and score it together. So I can't cut out the whole shape. Does that make sense? There needs to be a buffer for it to actually stick to. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna cut out inside of there. And mine is so hard I can't cut it with the needle tool. If yours is so hard you can't cut it with the needle tool, you need to remake yours.
I think it's coming along nice.
That's because you're precious. Now the other thing that this is doing right now, technically speaking, you could just punch a wee little bitty hole in this and it would be fine. But I'm also trying to lighten this up as light as I can. Why am I trying to lighten this part? Because this is going to be the heaviest part of my piece and I want to lighten it up. Okay? So another thing that I can do with this piece is I can cut out the inside here to make it fit a little bit better and a little bit lighter. So now that angle, see how I made kind of a bowl right there? That's going to fit on there more perfectly than if it was flat carved. If yours is really wet, you don't even have to do this. Yours should just be good. It should squish wherever you want to squish it. Mine is hard as a rock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to score inside of here, wherever it's going to attach, wherever it's touching. Two directions I like to do. Same thing over here. Don't score with the tool I'm scoring with. Use the needle tool. I'm going to slip. And I really need to look at it from like the front view to make sure I get it in the right spot.
Looks good.
Yeah, it looks good. Now, I did not score wide enough, you guys, so I gotta score more. See how it just popped right off? It's because I didn't score or slip wide enough. When I cut that rim, it fit more securely, so I actually can cut more of a hole off too. So let me cut this hole off.
I like it.
Thank you. Okay, so now it's not perfect right now. It looks like I need a little bit more height here. That's okay. That's for another day. So I'm just gonna squish it down, make sure it really takes root there. And then guess what I gotta add the whole way around, you guys?
It's a Band-Aid.
Gotta do the Band-Aid. So this is a little bit tighter here, so I'm gonna tighten it up and do a little bit skinnier Band-Aid this time, but it's exactly the same deal. Now to do the hole on the tail, same thing. I'd place it where I want it to go. I'd cut it at the correct angle, which the correct angle would be like here. I'd flatten that out, mark where it's gonna go, score, slip, score, and then I would attach it where it's gonna go. Does that make sense to everybody? Mine is way too hard to be doing this. Alright, let's go, you guys. Be emotionally prepared. I knew when I was sick that some of you might have to remake your pinch pots. I knew it.
I think it came out nice.
You're sweet.
Looks better than anything I've ever made.
That's sweet of you. That was so hard to see with the lights off. Oh well.
I'll go turn them on real quick.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I don't, and I got